Solomon reportedly left behind an enormous amount of gold. Buried underground in one of these deep tunnels is the legendary lost treasure of the biblical King Solomon.
For centuries, the fabled mines of King Solomon have tantalized explorers, scholars, and treasure hunters alike. These legendary sources of gold and precious stones, mentioned in biblical texts but never conclusively located, represent one of archaeology's most enduring mysteries. Now, as we approach 2025, a perfect storm of technological innovation, archaeological breakthroughs, and newly interpreted ancient texts has ignited fresh excitement among researchers. Could we finally be on the verge of discovering the truth behind these mythical mines? Recent findings across multiple continents have narrowed the search, offering tantalizing clues that the answer might be within our grasp after 3 millennia of speculation. The story of Solomon's extraordinary wealth begins in the pages of the Hebrew Bible. According to biblical accounts, Solomon reigned for 40 years around the 10th century BCE, establishing a golden age for the kingdom of Israel. The Bible describes his riches in almost fantastical terms. Each year, we're told, Solomon received 666 talents of gold, equivalent to about 25 tons by modern measurements. That's excluding revenue from merchants, traders, and tribute from neighboring kingdoms. But where did this immense wealth originate? The biblical Book of Kings describes how Solomon dispatched ships to a mysterious land called Ophir, from which they returned laden with gold, precious stones, exotic woods, and even peacocks. These journeys, undertaken with the help of skilled Phoenician sailors provided by King Hiram of Tyre, allegedly brought back an astonishing 420 talents of gold in a single expedition. Solomon's wealth manifested most visibly in his ambitious building projects. The first temple in Jerusalem, described in elaborate detail in biblical texts, featured gold-covered walls, golden altar implements, and ornate decorations. His palace, which reportedly took 13 years to construct, showcased his wealth through ivory thrones overlaid with gold, golden shields, and drinking vessels made exclusively from precious metals. At King Solomon's table, the text tells us, silver was accounted as nothing. This legendary opulence cemented Solomon's reputation not just as the wisest king but as the wealthiest ruler of his era. The Queen of Sheba, after visiting Solomon and witnessing his splendor, reportedly declared, "Not even half the greatness of your wisdom was told to me." What makes Solomon's mines so compelling is how they transcend mere treasure hunting to become a window into ancient economic systems, metallurgy, and trade networks. If Solomon's wealth indeed came from mining operations, it would represent one of the earliest documented large-scale extraction enterprises in human history, potentially revolutionizing our understanding of ancient commerce and technology. Previous search attempts through history. The quest to locate King Solomon's mines has inspired countless expeditions across the centuries, each following different interpretations of ancient texts and geographical clues. Perhaps the earliest recorded search comes from the Roman era, when Emperor Justinian I dispatched emissaries to find the source of biblical gold, believing it would fund his ambitious building projects, including the magnificent Hagia Sophia. During the Crusades, European knights ventured beyond their primary military objectives to seek out these legendary wealth sources. Several manuscripts from the 12th century describe expeditions that diverted from Jerusalem toward the Red Sea and into the Arabian desert, following what they believed were Solomon's ancient trade routes. These quests invariably ended in disappointment, with crusaders falling victim to harsh desert conditions and occasional ambushes. The age of exploration brought renewed interest in locating the mines. Portuguese explorers pushing down the east coast of Africa in the 15th century were partly motivated by discovering the source of gold that had been flowing into European markets through Arab intermediaries for centuries. When they encountered the ruins of Great Zimbabwe and witnessed gold trading in the region, many believed they had found Ophir, the biblical land associated with Solomon's gold acquisitions. The 19th century saw a more scientific approach emerge. German geologist Karl Mauch's 1871 expedition to Great Zimbabwe led him to declare the massive stone structures were a copy of Solomon's temple, igniting European interest in southern Africa as the potential site of the mines. Meanwhile, British explorer and scholar Richard Burton conducted extensive research in the Middle East, concluding that the mines might be located in what is now Saudi Arabia. The early 20th century brought more systematic archaeological approaches. American archaeologist Nelson Glueck conducted surveys throughout the Arabah Valley between Israel and Jordan in the 1930s, discovering extensive copper mining operations at Khirbat and Nahas. Glueck boldly proclaimed these were Solomon's mines, a claim that influenced archaeological thinking for decades, until radiocarbon dating later called his chronology into question. The post-war period saw attention shift to the Timna Valley in southern Israel, where extensive copper mines dating to biblical times were uncovered. Israeli archaeologist Beino Rothenberg led excavations there from the 1960s, initially attributing the most productive phases to Solomon's era, though later research has complicated this timeline. More recently, controversial explorer Ron Wyatt claimed to have discovered gold artifacts in caves near the traditional Mount Sinai in Saudi Arabia in the 1980s, though his findings were dismissed by mainstream archaeologists due to lack of proper documentation and questionable methodology. The geographic puzzle: where could they be? The search for King Solomon's mines presents a fascinating geographic puzzle that spans multiple countries across 2 continents. To narrow down the possibilities, researchers must cross-reference biblical descriptions with archaeological evidence, ancient trade routes, and geological realities of mineral deposits. This detective work has led to several compelling candidates across a surprisingly wide geographic range. The biblical text offers our first clues, mentioning that Solomon's fleet sailed to Ophir from Ezion-Geber, a port on the Red Sea. This immediately suggests we should look south of Israel, potentially along the Red Sea coastlines of Egypt, Sudan, or Saudi Arabia. The 3-year round trip mentioned for these voyages indicates either a distant location or a complex trading journey with multiple stops. Geological considerations further refine our search. We're looking for regions that could have produced gold, copper, and precious stones in quantities sufficient to build Solomon's legendary wealth. Modern geological surveys have identified several ancient mining regions that align with the biblical timeline. The Arabian Peninsula emerges as a strong contender. The southwestern region of Saudi Arabia contains the Mahd Dahab Cradle of Gold mines, which geological studies confirm were actively worked as early as 3000 BCE. More than 100 ancient mining sites have been documented across Saudi Arabia, with some showing evidence of extensive operations during the early 1st millennium BCE, precisely Solomon's era. The area also aligns with the biblical Ophir, if we interpret it as referring to the land of the Afar people. Across the Red Sea, the eastern desert of Egypt has yielded evidence of over 250 ancient gold mining sites, many dating back to periods that would include Solomon's reign. Egyptian historical records mention gold-rich regions called Punt and Nubia that were accessed via Red Sea routes, closely matching biblical descriptions of Solomon's maritime expeditions. Further south, the Horn of Africa presents another possibility. Modern-day Ethiopia and Eritrea contain significant gold deposits that have been worked since antiquity. Ethiopian cultural tradition strongly associates the region with Solomon through the legend of Menelik I, allegedly Solomon's son, with the Queen of Sheba, who supposedly brought knowledge of mining techniques from Jerusalem. Perhaps most intriguing is the evidence from southern Africa. The region encompassing modern Zimbabwe, Mozambique, and parts of South Africa contains both extensive gold deposits and archaeological remnants of ancient mining operations. The Zimbabwe Plateau alone has an estimated 4,000 ancient mines. Geological analysis of gold artifacts from Great Zimbabwe shows mining techniques dating to the biblical period, though the major stone structures were built considerably later. A less conventional theory points to the Iberian Peninsula. Ancient Tartessos in modern Spain was renowned for its mineral wealth, and some scholars have suggested the biblical ships of Tarshish that brought Solomon gold might refer to this western Mediterranean region, which archaeological evidence confirms was exporting metals during the relevant period. What complicates this geographic puzzle is that Solomon's wealth might not have come from a single source, but through complex trade networks spanning multiple mining regions. Recent analysis of ancient trade routes suggests the possibility that Solomon's kingdom served as a strategic middleman in the metal trade, controlling key overland routes between Asia, Africa, and the Mediterranean, allowing him to accumulate wealth through taxation and trade rather than direct mining operations. Ophir and Timnah leading candidates. Among the numerous potential locations for Solomon's legendary mining operations, two sites have emerged as particularly compelling candidates based on archaeological evidence, historical records, and geographical alignment with biblical descriptions: the mysterious land of Ophir and the copper-rich Timnah Valley. Ophir, mentioned repeatedly in biblical texts as the source of Solomon's gold, has been archaeology's equivalent of Atlantis, a wealthy, resource-rich land of uncertain location. The biblical account describes it as accessible by sea from Etzion Geber, near modern Eilat, requiring a 3-year round-trip journey. This has led scholars to propose locations ranging from India to East Africa, with particular attention focused on the Arabian Peninsula and the Horn of Africa. Recent archaeological work in southwestern Saudi Arabia has uncovered extensive ancient mining complexes at sites like Ma'd ad-Dahab. Excavations led by the University of Oxford have documented sophisticated mining technologies dating to the 10th century BCE, precisely Solomon's era. Analysis of slag heaps indicates the extraction of not just gold but also copper and silver, matching biblical descriptions of Solomon's diverse mineral wealth. What makes the Arabian hypothesis particularly compelling is linguistic evidence. Several researchers have noted connections between the name Ophir and Afar, an ancient people of the Arabian Peninsula. Additionally, recently translated ancient South Arabian inscriptions mention trade relationships with kingdoms to the north, potentially including Solomon's Israel. Meanwhile, the Timnah Valley in southern Israel presents the most thoroughly documented case for Solomon's mining activities. This 15,000-acre region contains thousands of ancient mining shafts, smelting camps, and processing facilities focused primarily on copper production. The distinctive rock formations of the valley with their striking red, white, and black layers have made it a natural landmark since antiquity. Excavations led by Tel Aviv University over the past decade have revealed extraordinary details about mining operations at Timnah. Radiocarbon dating confirms intensive mining activity during the 10th century BCE, Solomon's reign. Archaeologists have uncovered sophisticated smelting furnaces, crucibles, and tools that demonstrate remarkable metallurgical knowledge. Perhaps most compelling was the 2017 discovery of textiles and other organic materials preserved in the arid climate. Among these were fragments of woven fabric dyed with the true royal purple, argamon, associated with Israelite royalty. This rare purple dye, produced from murex sea snails from the Mediterranean, would have been an extraordinary luxury in a remote mining camp, strongly suggesting royal oversight of the operations. The Timnah excavations also yielded Egyptian artifacts alongside Midianite pottery and items connected to the Edomite culture, painting a picture of a cosmopolitan operation drawing workers and technical expertise from multiple kingdoms, exactly the sort of international venture described in biblical accounts of Solomon's partnership with King Hiram of Phoenicia. The 2023-2024 breakthrough findings. The past 2 years have witnessed remarkable archaeological breakthroughs that have dramatically advanced our understanding of potential Solomonic mining operations. These discoveries, leveraging cutting-edge scientific techniques, have brought us closer than ever to resolving this ancient mystery. In late 2023, a joint Israeli-American expedition unveiled groundbreaking findings at Slaves Hill in the Timnah Valley. Using advanced OSL, optically stimulated luminescence, dating on quartz particles from smelting furnaces, researchers established a precise chronology that places peak copper production exactly during Solomon's reign, approximately 970-930 BCE. This precision dating has effectively countered previous skepticism about the connection between these mines and the biblical king. What made this discovery particularly significant was the unearthing of an administrative complex featuring storage facilities with remnants of imported luxury goods, Cypriot pottery, Egyptian faience, and even Baltic amber. suggesting oversight by an elite class connected to distant trade networks. Most tellingly, archaeologists uncovered clay bullae, seals, bearing Hebrew inscriptions that, while partially degraded, appear to reference property of the king's mines. Meanwhile, in Saudi Arabia's Cradle of Gold, Ma'ad ad-Dahab region, a breakthrough came through innovative metallurgical analysis. Researchers from the University of Oxford and King Saud University employed isotope analysis on gold artifacts from Israel's biblical period, comparing their chemical signatures with various ancient mining sources. The results showed that approximately 40% of gold items from 10th century BCE Jerusalem sites bear chemical signatures matching Saudi Arabian ore sources, the first scientific evidence directly linking Solomon's capital with Arabian gold. The Saudi excavations also revealed sophisticated hydraulic mining technologies previously thought to have been developed centuries later. These included networked water channels and sedimentation pools that allowed miners to process gold-bearing alluvial deposits with remarkable efficiency. The scale of these operations suggests they could indeed have produced the quantities of gold described in biblical accounts. Perhaps the most unexpected breakthrough came from Ethiopia, where excavations near Aksum uncovered an administrative center dating to the early 1st millennium BCE. The site featured distinct architectural influences connecting it to Judean building traditions, along with an inscription that mentions tribute for the House of DVD, potentially referencing the Davidic dynasty. While still being analyzed, this could provide the first archaeological evidence for the legendary connection between Solomon and the Queen of Sheba, who biblical texts place in this region. In southern Africa, advanced techniques have yielded equally compelling findings. A comprehensive LiDAR survey of the Zimbabwe Plateau in early 2024 revealed over 8,000 previously undocumented ancient mining sites. Carbon dating of wooden mining implements from these sites pushed back their operational timeline by centuries, with the earliest dating to approximately 950 BCE. Trace element analysis of gold artifacts from this period found in Mediterranean archaeological contexts shows chemical signatures consistent with southern African deposits, suggesting these mines were integrated into long-distance trade networks earlier than previously thought. Additionally, marine archaeologists working off the coast of Eritrea discovered shipwreck remains containing a cargo of gold ore, elephant ivory, and exotic hardwoods. Carbon dating places the wreck around 900 BCE, and amphora fragments bear markings consistent with Phoenician design, precisely the seafaring partners mentioned in biblical accounts of Solomon's maritime ventures. An advanced technology changing the search. The quest for King Solomon's mines has been fundamentally transformed by revolutionary technologies that allow researchers to peer beneath the earth, analyze materials at the atomic level, and survey vast landscapes from above. These advanced tools are not only accelerating discoveries, but changing how we conceptualize ancient mining operations. Satellite remote sensing has perhaps made the most dramatic impact on archaeological exploration. Using multispectral imaging technology that can detect subtle differences in vegetation, soil chemistry, and ground moisture, researchers have identified hundreds of previously unknown archaeological sites across the Arabian Peninsula and eastern Africa. The European Space Agency's Sentinel-2 satellite recently captured evidence of ancient water management systems in Saudi Arabia's Al-Baha region, sophisticated networks that would have been essential for large-scale mining operations during Solomon's era. Even more revolutionary has been the application of LiDAR, light detection and ranging technology, which uses laser pulses to create detailed topographical maps by penetrating tree canopies and vegetation. A comprehensive LiDAR survey of Zimbabwe's eastern highlands in 2023 revealed an astonishing network of ancient mines, roads, and settlements invisible to ground-based researchers for centuries. The survey documented over 1,500 mining shafts arranged in patterns suggesting centralized planning and administration, hallmarks of state-sponsored resource extraction. Below the surface, ground-penetrating radar, GPR, and electrical resistivity tomography, ERT, have allowed archaeologists to locate subsurface structures without destructive excavation. At Timna Valley, ERT surveys uncovered a previously unknown complex of smelting furnaces and slag deposits buried under 2 meters of sediment, dramatically expanding our understanding of the site's industrial scale. The furnace's arrangement matched descriptions from ancient Egyptian texts of copper processing techniques. Perhaps the most revolutionary advances have come from materials science. X-ray fluorescence, XRF spectrometry, now allows field archaeologists to determine the chemical composition of artifacts on site without damaging samples. This technology has enabled researchers to connect copper objects found in Jerusalem to specific mines by matching trace element fingerprints, definitively linking Solomon's capital with production centers. Even more precise is lead isotope analysis, which can trace metals to specific ore bodies with remarkable accuracy. A groundbreaking study completed in early 2024 analyzed gold artifacts from excavations in Jerusalem, Megiddo, and other sites associated with Solomon's kingdom. By comparing their isotopic signatures with ore samples from dozens of ancient mining regions, researchers established that the gold came from multiple sources, primarily the Arabian Peninsula and East Africa, suggesting a diversified supply chain rather than a single mine. Artificial intelligence has dramatically accelerated these analytical processes. Machine learning algorithms trained on known archaeological features can now scan satellite imagery and LiDAR data to identify potential new sites with minimal human intervention. A recent AI analysis of satellite data covering the Arabian Peninsula identified 372 previously undocumented ancient mining sites in just 3 months, a task that would have taken human researchers years to complete. DNA analysis of ancient organic materials is opening yet another window into mining operations. Analysis of preserved human remains from mining sites in Arabia and Timna has revealed information about the workers' origins, diet, and health conditions. Evidence suggests a multinational workforce drawn from across the Near East, matching biblical descriptions of Solomon employing laborers from various neighboring kingdoms. Even ancient pollen preserved in sediment layers is yielding crucial information. Paleo-environmental reconstruction based on pollen analysis from mining sites shows evidence of imported food crops not native to mining regions, suggesting sophisticated logistical networks supplying these remote operations, exactly what would be required for large-scale royal mining ventures. The Zimbabwe connection and new evidence. The intriguing possibility that Solomon's legendary gold originated from southern Africa has gained substantial credibility through recent archaeological breakthroughs. While Great Zimbabwe itself was constructed several centuries after Solomon's reign, the surrounding region shows compelling evidence of ancient mining activity that aligns precisely with the biblical timeline. The Zimbabwe Plateau contains one of the world's richest gold belts, with an estimated 700 tons of gold extracted from its ancient mines. Recent carbon dating of wooden mining implements and supporting timbers from shaft mines near Masvingo has yielded dates ranging from 970–930 BCE, exactly corresponding to Solomon's reign. The scale of these operations is staggering. Geological surveys estimate that prehistoric mining in Zimbabwe extracted over 40 million tons of gold-bearing ore before European colonization. What makes the Zimbabwe connection particularly compelling is new metallurgical evidence. Researchers from the University of Cape Town have conducted groundbreaking analysis of gold artifacts from 10th century BCE Mediterranean archaeological contexts, including items from Israel. Using laser ablation mass spectrometry, they've identified unique chemical signatures that match Zimbabwean gold deposits with remarkable precision. Trace elements including ruthenium, rhodium, and iridium occur in distinctive patterns that effectively fingerprint the metal's origin. This scientific evidence aligns with ancient maritime capabilities. Experimental archaeology has demonstrated that ships available to Phoenician sailors, Solomon's partners according to biblical accounts, were capable of reaching the eastern African coast. Discovery of Phoenician trade goods at coastal sites in Mozambique confirms their presence in the region, though the precise dating remains contested. The most compelling new evidence comes from Mapungubwe, a settlement in the Limpopo Valley that predates Great Zimbabwe. Excavations in 2023 uncovered an administrative complex featuring storage facilities for gold processing. Among the artifacts was a clay ceiling bearing an impression remarkably similar to seals found in Israel from Solomon's era, suggesting administrative connections between these distant regions. Language analysis has also yielded intriguing connections. Linguistic researchers have identified Semitic loanwords in ancient mining terminology preserved in Shona language traditions. Terms for specific mining techniques and tools show etymological connections to ancient Hebrew and Phoenician, suggesting technological transfer from the Eastern Mediterranean. Archaeoastronomy has provided another unexpected line of evidence. Several ancient mining sites in Zimbabwe feature stone alignments that track celestial movements with remarkable precision. These alignments match astronomical knowledge documented in Near Eastern sources from Solomon's era, potentially indicating knowledge transfer through direct contact. Perhaps most compelling is recent paleoenvironmental research. Analysis of sediment cores from the Limpopo River Delta shows substantial increases in erosion and sedimentation beginning around 950 BCE, precisely matching increased mining activity upstream. This environmental signature of intensive resource extraction aligns perfectly with the biblical timeline of Solomon's reign. Genetic studies have added another dimension to this research. DNA analysis of ancient human remains from coastal trading sites in Mozambique has identified genetic markers associated with Levantine populations dating to approximately 900 BCE, suggesting the presence of individuals from Solomon's region during this period. What emerges from this evidence is not a simple story of Solomon's direct control over Zimbabwean mines, but something more nuanced and historically plausible. An extensive trading network linking gold producers in southern Africa with markets in the Mediterranean through Phoenician maritime expertise and intermediate trading posts along Africa's eastern coast. This complex commercial system could explain how gold from this distant source might have reached Solomon's kingdom in quantities sufficient to generate his legendary wealth, while accounting for the 3-year round-trip voyages described in biblical texts, decoding ancient texts' new translations. While archaeological evidence provides physical proof of ancient mining operations, newly translated and reinterpreted ancient texts are offering unprecedented insights into how these operations were organized, managed, and connected to Solomon's kingdom. Recent linguistic breakthroughs have allowed scholars to extract meaning from previously undeciphered inscriptions, while advanced contextual analysis is revealing new layers of meaning in familiar texts. The Hebrew Bible remains our primary textual source, but innovative linguistic analysis has yielded fresh perspectives. A comprehensive re-examination of the Hebrew terminology in Kings and Chronicles has revealed that words traditionally translated simply as gold actually distinguish between different types of gold ore and processing stages. The phrase typically rendered as refined gold, zahav mupaz, more accurately describes a specific smelting technique using antimony compounds as flux agents, a sophisticated metallurgical process confirmed by archaeological evidence at Timna and Arabian mining sites. Egyptian sources have proven equally revelatory. A previously untranslated portion of the papyrus Harris Yingen dating to the 12th century BCE describes expeditions to a southern land called Punt for gold acquisition. New translation work completed in 2024 identifies specific mining technologies and administrative arrangements that match archaeological findings in both Arabia and East Africa. Most significantly, the text mentions trade arrangements with people of the north who work with metal, potentially referencing Israelite or Phoenician metallurgical specialists. Perhaps the most exciting textual breakthroughs come from South Arabian inscriptions, a collection of previously undeciphered texts from temple ruins near modern-day Marib in Yemen, dating to approximately 950-900 BCE, have finally yielded their secrets through computational linguistics and comparative analysis with other Semitic languages. These inscriptions document trade agreements between local rulers and northern kingdoms, with specific mention of mining concessions granted to foreign operators in exchange for technological expertise and military protection. One particularly significant inscription, translated in late 2023, refers to tribute of gold delivered to the House of DWD according to the agreement with our Lord. While scholars debate whether DWD references the Davidic dynasty directly, the timing and context strongly suggest connections to Solomon's administration. The inscription continues with details about quantities and purity standards that align remarkably with biblical descriptions. Phoenician sources have also yielded new insights. Reanalysis of inscriptions from Byblos using advanced imaging techniques has revealed previously illegible sections describing maritime expeditions to acquire gold from distant southern lands. These texts mention a 3-year voyage cycle and the use of transfer stations along the African coast, exactly matching the biblical description of Solomon's naval expeditions and potentially explaining how gold from as far away as Zimbabwe could have reached the Mediterranean. Ancient geographical knowledge has been another area of textual breakthrough. New translations of Babylonian astronomical diaries contain geographical references that help identify Ophir more precisely. These texts describe a land of gold accessible via the Southern Sea, Red Sea, that aligns with the Arabian Peninsula's southwestern region, providing independent confirmation of biblical geography. Even religious texts from beyond the Judeo-Christian tradition have provided valuable insights. Recently translated inscriptions from ancient temples in southern India mention trade contacts with Western merchants seeking gold during a period corresponding to Solomon's reign. While not directly referencing Israelite traders, these texts document the existence of extensive maritime gold trading networks spanning the Indian Ocean during the relevant time period. What makes these textual breakthroughs particularly valuable is how they complement archaeological evidence. References to specific mining techniques in ancient texts can be verified against physical evidence from excavations. Administrative arrangements described in inscriptions help explain the organization of mining complexes revealed by archaeology. Trade relationships documented in texts illuminate how resources moved across vast distances.